As much as I'm excited about the newest upcoming character Shikuno in Heizou, there's something that's been bothering me about him, and in this video, I'm going to address the whole situation. So after finally getting some useful info about Heizou during the 2.8 livestream, I was left with some weird first impressions about him. I mean, I have a couple of reasons why I feel this way, and the first one being is that he will be featured alongside Kazuha in the first phase of 2.8 update. Don't get me wrong, having a chance to pull Kazuha and Heizou at the same time seems like an awesome opportunity, especially for those who have been waiting for the Maple Samurai Boy for more than a year now. So getting to pull for the Inazuma detective seems like a nice bonus. However, this is going to be a banner with 2 Anemo units featured. I mean, normally when we're building teams for the Abyss, it's usually just one Anemo unit that makes the comps work, aside from a small exception like Xiao Jio, since all you really need is that godlike Viridescent Venereer resistance shred, coupled with things like crowd control or healing. And sure, you could say that these 2 Anemo units can be used in separate teams, but what I'm trying to get to here is that a lot of people will get to see and compare Heizou's capabilities against other Anemo units. And here's the thing, Heizou is definitely not going to be a healer, his crowd control seems negligible from the videos we saw of him, and most importantly, he's actually going to be the second Anemo unit whose entire selling point is to be a damage dealer. Like, think about it, while every single Anemo unit can deal really good damage, maybe aside from Sayu, they still offer something else, like Sucrose, Kazuha, and Venti who are crowd controllers, or Jin and Sayu who are excellent healers. This leaves only Xiao who's really just there to deal big dumb damage by hopping around, which is absolutely fine, but at the same time, he was the exception so far. So, going back to Heizou, if his entire purpose is to be the 4-star Anemo damage dealer, what could this possibly mean for those who want to build him, and more importantly, how will he be compared to the rest of the Anemo units, which have been so crucial in so many team builds? Honestly, I think some people might get the wrong impression about him, especially once he becomes available, because from the way I'm seeing things right now, he is being marketed as this melee catalyst bruiser, which looks really cool, but at the same time, we're not used to building Anemo damage dealers, as strange as that sounds, since most of the time we looked at them as powerful supports that also deal really good damage. But let me back this up with some evidence. What we saw in the 2.8 livestream was that first and foremost, the focus of his entire kit is built around the elemental skill. It looks like a pretty simple talent that deals damage, however there's also a mechanic called Declension Stacks, which you can build up and will increase the skill's damage and AoE. Now while the official damage multipliers and all the intricacies of how you can build the Declension Stacks will become available pretty soon in 2.8 launch, it's important to understand that the skill is more than likely going to be a huge part of his overall playstyle. I mean, sure, there's also the burst, which seems to have some minor crowd control built into it, but it doesn't look like it will be used for that purpose. And even if it can cause a second explosion from the elemental absorption, it still looks like more or less another method to produce what is hopefully a big damage number. But it will probably not get activated as often as you would when using his skill, since, you know, skills almost always have quicker cooldowns. And there's also a secret method how you can reduce them further, and why this might become really good for Heizou, but I'll get back to this in just a moment. Finally, there's also normal attacks which look extremely fun to use, but from the track record we have seen in the past with previous characters, I have very little faith Hoyoverse will allow us to deal a lot of damage with Heizou's normal attacks. And I'm talking about the literal damage numbers, not things like causing a lot of swirls and other type of secondary damage. So overall, if Heizou's primary purpose is to deal damage, then I think it's a good time I talk about what you could expect from this. Alright, so let's get the simple stuff out of the way for this detective/martial artist. There's probably going to be 2 ways how you can approach his full damage potential. The first one is the standard way, building critical rate and damage, so you can produce those big beautiful numbers from his skill and burst, and this is considered to be the most optimal build when dealing single target damage. The second way is with elemental mastery. The damage will come from reactions, and since Heizou can trigger them super easily, thanks to the fact he is a catalyst user, I don't see any situation where this build will not be decent enough, aside from going up against single targets. Keep in mind that going for an elemental mastery build does require obtaining artifact pieces with the EM as the main stat, which has the lowest drop chance out of all the main stats, and on top of this, if you go for something like an entire 4 set with elemental mastery, like Viridescent Venereer, well, it can take a long time. In fact, I still don't have a 5-star circlet with EM after spending thousands of resin. But that's the simple stuff. More or less, you could just slap a VV 4 set on Heizou, get some critical rate and damage and just call it a day, if I'm being honest here. And yet, there's some more exotic options to consider, and part of the reason why I made this video is that I wanted to talk about this next thing. You see, Anemo is insanely good when it comes to producing reactions. Normally, you would think that it's just swirls and nothing else. And yet, they can also basically cause any reaction besides with Geo. All you really need are 2 or more targets. Like for example, one of these poor hilichurls has Pyro and the other one has Electro. If they stand close enough to each other and you do something as simple as one normal attack with Sucrose here, she will cause a swirl with one of the elements which will also spread to nearby targets. So if Pyro is spread on top of someone with Electro, well, you get the picture. There will be overload damage, and it was all accomplished with the power of Anemo. So, why do I bother explaining this to you? Well, remember how I said I believe that a big part of Heizou's playstyle will be his elemental skill? Well, you can actually reduce the skill's cooldown by using the Thundering Fury set. The 4-set bonus will decrease the cooldown by 1 second, as long as there is an electro-related reaction caused by the user. And since I already showed you that you can actually do this with an Anemo unit, Heizou won't have any problems utilizing this, especially in taser teams. In fact, we can already see this effect in play when using someone like Kazuha. Now, I'm not saying this is the best build for Kazuha, but you can see from the footage here how his skill cooldown drastically decreases, which, as you can imagine, if the same can be done with Heizou and his skill, you could potentially be looking at something like causing maybe 1 or 2 additional skill activations during the rotation. Obviously, this leaves a big hole in the team due to lack of VV Shred artifact set, and yet, this is also why I wanted to make this video, because as it turns out, utilizing Heizou with Thundering Fury and really good Electro and Hydro applicators like Fischl and Xingqiu or Yelan, the last spot could be taken by an Anemo unit like Kazuha with Verdescent Venereer set. Now, I know this might look like a really niche team comp, but at the same time, if Heizou does in fact deal a lot of damage from his skill, utilizing that cooldown reduction from Thundering Fury might not be a joke and a serious thing to consider. Now, all of this depends whether you're ready to sacrifice your resin in a domain that otherwise isn't super popular or efficient, but I do believe it may become a viable option for those who really enjoy spamming Heizou's skill. The only problem, and a pretty severe one, is that you cannot utilize Thundering Fury if there's only a single target, since there's nobody to spread the elemental statuses to with Anemo, and you won't be causing reactions like Electro Charge or Overload, which means this entire strategy fails against single boss chambers. So if you are considering, then make sure to use this team comp with multiple enemies in the chamber, which is basically already the same thing you would normally do when using Taser as usual. Either way, when looking at Heizou as a pure damage dealer, there's definitely some options you can already consider, even some exotic ones like Thundering Fury. But at the end of the day, this is just my pre-analysis of the character, and everything will become much more clear after he's finally released, and we get to take a look at those damage multipliers and other gameplay intricacies. You know what I love about Catalyst users? They are probably the most flexible units in the entire game when it comes to team building. Like, even if Hoyoverse decides to be stingy with Heizou's damage multipliers, you can still give him Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayers, and just use him with Verdescent Artifact set to boost the team's damage. Or, remember how I said he doesn't heal? Well, you can equip him with Prototype Amber and keep the team alive with pretty decent heals. So at the end of the day, it's very hard to screw up a unit like Heizou when he can literally deal Anemo damage with normal attacks, which means it's super easy to create swirls and capitalize on VV Shred, or you can just give him other great support catalysts. Now you might be wondering, can't you already do all of this stuff with Sucrose, and on top of it, her crowd control is better? I mean, yeah, you could look at it from this perspective. However, we still haven't seen what Heizou is capable of, how much damage he can deal, and most importantly, how well he will integrate in team rotation. Or, you know, the fact that he's literally a close combat fighter and has some really cool normal attacks could be enough for some, if not a lot of people. I mean, as I already showed you before, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to building an Anemo damage dealer, even as going as far as using Thundering Fury set, which also means pairing him together with another Anemo unit who has the VV Shred set, which can lead to some very interesting and fun team comps. But overall, I kind of feel optimistic about Heizou. He actually looks like someone who has a fun playstyle, and honestly, I really just wanted to make this video to talk about the unique position Anemo Element is in, and how this might affect you when you're trying to build Heizou as a damage dealer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be spending a lot of time with this Inazuma detective to give you the best review, guide, and tips for Heizou, so make sure to subscribe to my channel and leave a like on the video to help support me in my content creation journey. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.